And looks like we are live. Hello, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Super excited to be here. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Brittany. I am one of the admins of this amazing group. I have my partner Chris here, and we are so happy to welcome our friend Hadi in here today to talk to you about limiting beliefs and fear. If you are here with us live, say hello, drop us a like, say hashtag live. If you're on the replay, drop hashtag replay. And without further ado, I am going to introduce my friend. Hi, Hadi. Thanks so much for coming in and being with us today.
Good to be here, and thank you for creating the space to have this conversation and be able to serve.
Absolutely. We really appreciate you coming in. I know, for all of us, right? I've struggled with limiting beliefs and fear, and I just think that this can bring so much value to the group, especially with everything going on in the world right now. There's a lot of crazy shit happening, and that can really affect, our energy and how we show up in the world and, what we believe about ourselves and fear and all of these things. So I'm really excited, to have you here and to talk about this. So tell us a little bit about your story. How did you get involved in this type of coaching, and how do you help people?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you so much for having me today, and for everyone joining today. Thanks for joining. I know time is one of our precious commodities we have, so I really appreciate you guys spending your time with us. And I guess if you're here, I'm going to ask you for a favor. Try to be present with us today, and as much as you can, make the most out of this. Remove any distractions just for the next 30-40 minutes. To get the most out of this, and as much as you can, also engage. The more you engage, the more you're going to get out of this. And if anything resonates with you, just put it in the comments, share with us, and see this as if you're learning to share it, because when you learn to share, you're just going to incorporate it much easier. So who am I? My name is Hadi, and I help mostly entrepreneurs achieve or grow their business in less time and with more certainty. And I do that using two things. One, changing the relationship they have with themselves, and also help them step into their most focused mental states to achieve those goals, so that we can have more impact, have more joy, have more fulfillment, right? The things we all want. But 5 years ago, I didn't have fulfillment. I didn't have joy. I wasn't confident. I was really struggling with my belief systems and who I am. And I was facing anxiety, depression, insomnia. I had the whole list of things that were not going well for me that I know a lot of people resonate with. And I'll be honest, I was self-medicating a lot, self-medicating with alcohol, self-medicating with drugs, just trying to escape that moment, because I was in so much pain from past events, pain from the thoughts that keep on kind of, it can spiral down and go into cycles. And I think people can resonate with that. And I really didn't believe I was able to do much. I was a big bully for myself. So I didn't start the bullying, but I continued the bullying. And for a lot of us, we go through this. We bully ourselves. We tell ourselves we're not good enough. We're not capable to do this. We can't do this. Who am I to think I can do X, Y, Z, right? And to be honest with you, if you told me 5 years ago, I'd be able to overcome all those things, and not just overcome it, but help people overcome fear and quit my 9-to-5 job that was secure and go into business knowing nothing about business, I would have laughed in your face, because 5 years ago, I was still having panic attacks about doing presentations. Because I had that fear. I just didn't know what will happen. And the funny thing is, 5 years ago, I was doing everything I can to move away from presentations. And now I'm doing everything I can to do presentations. And that's the crazy thing about your mind. Your mind is such a powerful tool, but it can take control in a very bad way, which we're going to kind of go into today. And it's always those thoughts, right? the thoughts that we always have that make us tell us whether we're capable of, and make us kind of compare ourselves with other people. And we get into this kind of comparison game of, oh, look at them, it's so easy for them, and I'm not like them, and it's natural to them. And all we're doing here is making assumptions, right? We're making assumptions about the challenges that the others went through. We don't know what they went through to build the skill set they have. And in any case, we don't know, what we're seeing is just a snapshot of what's happening in their lives. We don't know the challenges that they're facing in that moment, that they're struggling with. So number one, we need to stop comparing, doing that comparison game, right? It's a big thing that our mind automatically, we've got into this habit of comparing ourselves, and we're just making assumptions. All comparison is assumption making, because we don't know the facts. And if I share my screen, actually. I want you to look at your mind today in a very different way. And I'm here to really try to challenge you a bit with how you see your mind. Our mind, its main focus is survival. That's all it wants, right? It wants survival. It wants certainty. It wants, what is the certain path that will allow me to understand what I'm doing? It likes what is familiar, right? And our mind is focused more on short-term survival than our long-term joy, growth, or impact, right? That's all it's focused on. Is this a threat? Is this dangerous for me? So then it pushes this kind of narrative to move us away from the things that might bring us joy, growth, impact. And our mind would rather keep us in the cage it understands than let us be free in the uncertain jungle. Even if this cage is painful, it'd rather have us stay in there because it understands it. It wants certainty, doesn't like unknown. And two things changed my life, really. One, I started spending a lot of time with confident people, people I looked up to, people on the outside looked very, very confident in what they were doing. And it was kind of I wish I could be like them, right? We see some people also, I'm sure we've gone through this in our life, where we see people and they look confident and we're like, I wish I had that. And what I found out was they don't have it figured out too. They're just kind of going and trying to make sense of this thing we call life, and trying, and they're just taking action. And they had fear. They had mental health issues. They had challenges. It just, on the outside, it looked like they didn't. And the other thing that really, and this kind of led me to think that, and realize actually that there's nothing wrong with me. That was the first time I believed, I realized that there wasn't anything wrong with me in terms of all those thoughts that I had. They were having the same thoughts, but they were taking action. Now, some people were faking it until you make it, and that's not what I'm suggesting here. And I'll go into detail into how we should kind of move forward with that. But the other thing that also changed my life was I watched an episode on Netflix by Brene Brown. I don't know if anyone knows Brene Brown over here, but if you do, put in the chat, if it resonates with you and you like her work. And she made me realize the importance and value of being vulnerable. I spend my whole life covering myself with these kind of thick walls, right? And we do that all the time. We try to cover ourselves with these thick walls to be safe. It keeps us safe. It keeps us comfortable. But it comes at the cost of truly living our life. And every time there was an opportunity, a connection that would be helpful, that thing to grab and go after, I had a reason not to. I'll do it tomorrow. Tomorrow comes, I'll do it tomorrow. Let me think about it. I need more information. And it's a constant cycle just to keep us safe. But what is life without being vulnerable? Like love, connection, growth, impact, that all requires us to be vulnerable. To put ourselves out there without really knowing the outcome, that's courage. That's vulnerability, that's impact. And that's how we can show up and really make a change around us in the world. we have two choices, really. We either sit in the arena, in the stands, watching life happen to us, become spectators of life, or be in the arena and create the life that we want. One has 100% failure rate at making the impact that you want and living the life that you truly want, but it's comfortable and it's safe. The other gives you an opportunity to really make the impact that you want. But there's going to be friction. There's going to be challenge. That's natural. And the moment you make a definite decision to be in the arena and to show up fully is really the day your life will change forever. And the moment I made that decision to show up authentically, fully, not knowing the outcome, is the day I realized the game that we're all playing really is you versus your mind. That's the game we're playing. The mind's going to put a narrative. It wants to stay safe, comfortable, at the cost of your joy and your love and your growth. Fear kills more dreams than lack of ability. I've seen this time and time again. Fear stops people from showing up fully way before skills come in play. And I've worked with so many skillful people where their mind comes in the way of their ability to really show up and make the impact that they can make. Right? And that happens to all of us. Who over here has had fear stop them from taking action? It happens to all of us, and it's natural. But we're not here playing the comfortable game. We're here to help people. We're here to make a change. We're here to impact our environment. And this is the thing. This is really not about us. This is about the people we're able to serve. This goes beyond the challenge that we have over here. This goes to the impact that we want to make. And I see so many people unable to serve the way they want and the ability they have already because of this thing called fear, because of these beliefs that they have about who they are and who they are not. Right? And our world needs you to be uncomfortable. I know you might have wanted to come over here and not hear that, but it's the truth. And here's the thing. People want confidence and certainty in the thing they are doing, right? Everyone's waiting for that certainty. I'm going to take action when I have all the information ready for me to take action. Here's the truth, though. You can't have certainty and confidence in something you haven't done before. That doesn't make any sense. You build that up. The first time, and here's the thing. When I speak to a lot of people, they always say, I'm not confident, Hadi. In what? What are you not confident in? Are you not confident in driving? I can see you've been driving very well. Are you not confident in walking? You've done it. You seem so comfortable in walking. We take this one experience that we might not be good at this moment and brush our whole life with it and generalize, make this generalization about who we are. Even though we have evidence that we are confident in certain things, confidence isn't something that is, it's not like confident people don't have fear. Confident people take action in spite of fear. I think a lot of people have that challenge of, but I feel uncomfortable here and I feel fear, and therefore I don't think I'm confident. You can't be confident in everything. There has to be some things that you're not confident in. And that's a good thing, because that makes you want to learn and take action to build that. Successful people don't wait to be confident, right? They take action and then become confident in that specific task. But you can learn to have confidence in your ability to figure it out. We can't have certainty maybe in the outcome that we're trying to achieve, but we can have certainty in ourselves, in our ability to figure it out. Maybe not the first step, maybe not the second step, right? I mean, I sure know when I started doing this and started like doing videos and maybe not the first step, maybe not the second step. Right? And when I had a chance to look at one of my first videos a couple days back, and I was just like, wow, you don't realize the growth that you can have in such a short time when you take action. Brittany, I know you must also kind of have gone through this, and you've kind of experienced that, but the growth of when you first started, how it was, the fear, but then you took action.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You gotta keep going. You gotta get uncomfortable. You gotta get good at, getting uncomfortable and get comfortable with that. That's the only way we're gonna grow.
Yeah. Yeah. And so we have this idea that confident humans don't have fear, don't have doubt. They're just fearless. They're just walking there and just so confident. Wish we can be like them, right? This is what confident people, what we call confident humans, say. Every time I was called on in class, I was sure that I was about to embarrass myself. Every time I took a test, I was sure that I had gone badly. Every time I didn't embarrass myself or even excelled, I believed that I had fooled everyone yet again. One day soon, the jig would be up. I've felt that so many times. People will find out. That's Sheryl Sandberg, Chief Operating Officer of Facebook. She had doubt. She had fear. It's almost like the better I do, the more feelings of inadequacy actually increases, because I'm just going, any moment, someone's going to find out I'm a total fraud, that I don't deserve any of what I've achieved. I can't possibly live up to what everyone thinks I am and what everyone's expectations of me are. Emma Watson, famous actress. If you look at the memoirs of all those people over here, you'll also notice that they had doubt. They weren't sure about things. Look at their biography. Look at their memoirs, how they communicated to others. But they took action in spite of fear and doubt. We fall into this trap of thinking our thoughts are us. They're not. We're not our thoughts. We're not one thought. We're not one feeling. These feelings are there to help us, to guide us in one way. And fear is there for a reason, by the way. Fear is there to protect us. I'm not saying fear is don't ever listen to it, right? It saves us from certain things, but here's the thing, write this down. Fear is a good helper, but a terrible master. Okay? It's there, and sometimes we need to listen to it, but it takes over. And when it takes over, it looks at everything with one lens, which is danger. When you have just one lens looking at everything, and it's in the seat in your mind, and it's dictating things to you, that's when we lose control, and then it becomes harder for us to take action because we keep on listening to those thoughts, right? And here's the thing, I'll be honest with you. I name my fear. Her name is Betsy. Betsy shows up. Sorry for any Betsy's out there. It's just Betsy, the name Betsy makes me smile. So I'm just like, oh, it's Betsy. Betsy's here, And I listen to Betsy. She has a point. She's trying to, she has a positive intention, but she looks at everything with one lens, danger. And to be honest, sometimes it's a good thing that Betsy's there because it makes me prepare. If I was so confident about this presentation, I wouldn't have showed up with this stuff. Right? I would just rocked up and tried to see what happens. But because of that slight fear there, it made me work. It made me prepare. And so I'm more comfortable now. I'm able to deliver something better than what if fear wasn't there. But when it causes us to have paralysis, but when it causes us to just consume information instead of taking action, that's when you know there's a problem here. Fear has taken over. It's become the master. And it's time to change that. There's three main reasons why we don't take much action as we can, right? Fear of unknown change. Some people might say that's the fear of success. We all want to be successful, but it's what happens if we become successful. We're scared of these certain beliefs we might have about, what if I become greedy, right? I might be successful and become greedy. We're scared of these unknowns, and that stops us from taking action. Fear of what failure will mean about who you are and your self-worth. This is a big one. That stopped me for most of my life, really, because I didn't know what my value was. I lived my life mostly trying to define my self-worth by my outcomes, my results. And that's not, and I know a lot of people do that, and it's not our fault. Why? Because we've lived as children, we've been grown up as children to be told when we're doing a bad thing or a good thing by other people. Our teachers would say you did good or bad. Our parents would say you did good or bad. So we don't have this internal validation. We're waiting for other people to tell us whether we're good or bad. And sometimes it's not about our work. Our work is good or bad. No, you did a bad thing. You are bad. And so we hold on to the beliefs and we start to kind of incorporate them into our identity and make the assumptions that we are bad and live our life looking at ourselves in that way. And we're seeking validation from other people. And so if I fail at something, that's an attack on my identity. And so I'd rather not risk that attack on my identity. Why would you risk that? Your brain is going to try its best to not risk that, right? That's uncertain. And then we have limiting beliefs about our identity, about money, about success, or about people, right? Things that generalizations we've made were given to us by our nurturing family, friends, environment. You know, for example, money is a big one. You know, I work with a lot of people and it comes down to finding out that they think that money is the root of all evil. Well, guess what? If you think money is the root of all evil, why the hell would you want to be successful? Because they don't want to be evil. They're going to work and self-sabotage and procrastinate and not take action because they have that mindset, because they were taught from a young age to believe in that. And you see the whole world from that perspective. And that dictates how you feel and the actions you take, and the results that you have. Now, some of these are kind of linked together, but it all comes down to those three things. One of the reasons why we don't take action when it comes to our mindset. You know, health is not just mindset, right? We're talking about mindset. So what do we need to do? When it comes to fear of unknown and change, we need to gain clarity on what the goal is. We need to get clarity on the blueprint of how to get there and why that's important. The why is really important. Why you're doing what you're doing. Why do you want to serve those people? Whatever answer you're going to get, you're going to have to go into why is that important? You need to go to the seed of why you do what you do. And I remind myself every day of why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why? Because entrepreneurship is very uncertain. And there's going to be a lot of things not going to your plan. And you have to remember why you're doing what you're doing because it can chip away at your motivation at times. And I do this every morning. I have this life manifesto that I read that gets me ready and reminds me every day why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that gives me reassurance to reduce that uncertainty of the path forward. Fear of failure about who we are and our self-worth, well, we need to gain clarity on our values and how to live in alignment to those values. A lot of people haven't done the what are my values? What is important to me? And how do I live in alignment to those values? Because if you haven't done that, you're going to rely on being valued by other people. And just to note to everyone, I've done a PDF around all of this and to summarize all this and also kind of whatever we're going to do an exercise in a bit has that exercise. So I'm going to send the link down in the comment section. If you press it, you'll get access to that just in case people are just writing as fast as they can. And lastly, we need to gain clarity on our limiting beliefs and what qualities you need to incorporate. Here's the thing. This whole identity thing, right? Who are we? Who do we see ourselves as? For a big chunk of it, it's generalizations that we need. I believed this is not a joke. I believed I was an idiot for most of my life. Why? Because I was told I was an idiot by my environment for many years. And I grew up believing that for so long. And it got to the point where I remember I was working in the corporate world and I had this kind of feedback session, and my director was like, Hadi, you're in the top 5% in your group. And my first thought to that was, why is she lying to me? I didn't even believe her. It wasn't like, oh, really? No. Why is she lying to me? That's how my mind was. I already know that I'm stupid. Why would she be lying to me? And we do that all the time. We're kind of filtering the information around us in a certain way according to those beliefs. And these qualities that we have, confident, fun, all those things, we assume that we don't have those things. These are just things that we can add. A lot of people say, I'm not fun. You at any situation, you've never been fun. That's just an assumption, a generalization that we do, and then we incorporate as part of our identity and our self-concept. And our self-concept is essentially a big, huge generalization for the most part. So you have a choice right now. Do you decide to uncover those beliefs and unchain yourself, or continue with the status quo? The work we do on ourselves become our gifts to the world. It's tough. Our brain doesn't like it because, again, it's unknown. What's going to come out? What comes out? But I'll be doing a disservice to the world if we don't figure what those are. Your sense of self is mostly made up. You make generalizations, which is kind of what I just said, around the qualities you possess, which make up most of who you are, right? By qualities, I mean these attributes. I'm confident, I'm not confident, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this, I'm this. Why? Because an experience happened when you were younger or whenever, and you just brushed your whole life with that. You could be confident in this and not confident in that. And it ends up dictating your life and what you see. Literally, you will see different things based on the beliefs you have. And I just want to kind of showcase that, how your mind works. You've got, in our environment, we have these things, these stimuli, right? Everything's happening in our environment. And we sense all those things through our senses. We see, hear, smell, taste, touch. But we filter them, we generalize, we delete, we distort, because there's so much information coming at us. So we have to kind of chop it out for our conscious mind to process it. Our conscious mind can only process about 40 bits of information per second. Our unconscious, subconscious mind can process 11 million bits of information per second. That's a big difference. That's a lot of generalizations, a lot of deletions and distortions. If I ask you right now, how does your feet feel on the ground? You don't have to move to tell me what that is. That's because your subconscious mind was already processing this information, but it didn't put it into your conscious mind awareness because it's not important, or it assumes it's not important until it is. And what impacts this generalization, this deletion, this distortion? It's our beliefs and values. Our beliefs about who we are, our beliefs about what needs to happen for us to become successful, And based on that interpretation of what we're seeing in our environment, we have our current state, our thoughts and our feelings. We have those thoughts and we have those feelings. These are coming from the beliefs we have about us, what we're capable of about our world. They're generating the thoughts and feelings we have. And we act based on how we feel. If we have more doubt, if we have too much fear, if we're feeling bad about ourselves, guess what's going to happen to the actions that we're going to take, to the decision making we're going to have, compared to if we have more joy, if we have more focus, more excitement. And that's going to change the outcome that we have. And also we have physiology here that also impacts our thoughts and feelings. Our physiology is essentially, we can change, for example, I can change my breathing right now and do some breath work, and that will change how I feel. And that will impact also my actions. So we can kind of hijack this a bit with our physiology. Nutrition can also come over here. Right? And a lot of people are kind of in this cycle of, they live in the same environment, they're seeing the same things, they're interpreting everything the same way, they're feeling the same way, and they're taking the same action, and they're like, well, I can't change, I'm in this cycle, right? But we've got to look at their beliefs. We've got to look at those beliefs and find out what's happening there with the beliefs. What are those beliefs that are causing those thoughts to happen, those feelings to happen? And as Carl Jung said over here, until you make the unconscious conscious, It will rule your life, and you'll call it fate. Right? Here's the thing. Here's two things. Like, the map is not the territory, i.e., we're all looking at the world with a different map to the reality of things. We're all walking around with a different map based on those beliefs that we have. Is this map serving you? And we act based on how we feel. So we all hold certain beliefs that don't help us achieve our goals, right? They served a purpose at a point. They were serving us at a certain point in our life, but beliefs are essentially assumptions, and they're not holding anymore. They're not serving us. They're not making us feel the things that we want to feel. And they limit our ability to reach our vision today. And we are conscious of some beliefs, and others we're not consciously aware of. We need to do a bit more, deep digging, essentially. So here's the thing. Here's what we could do. So whenever you're trying to take action, notice any negative feelings you get when taking action in a particular area. I'm doing this, whatever I'm doing, I feel this feeling. Label, what is this feeling that you're feeling? Become aware of it. You don't have to judge it, but just, although I judged it over there by saying negative, but it's whatever feeling is there. And behind that feeling, as I just showed you, there's a thought. There's a thought that's creating this feeling. What is that thought? Behind that thought, there's a belief or a story. You have a story going in there about yourself, about how the world works, that's creating that thought, that's creating that feeling. Every time you're about to take action and you have that feeling showing up, do this. Find what is the thought. Behind that thought, there's a belief or a story. And list all those beliefs, all those limiting beliefs you have. Make a list of them. And then for each limiting belief that you have, we're going to carry out this exercise. We're going to challenge it. We've moved away from just accepting the things that our mind tells us, right? We know our mind wants certainty, but we know our mind will do everything it can to move us towards the certain route. I mean, before we go into that, we've all been there where we break up with someone for 1,000 reasons why. And then we go through some challenging period, and then our mind makes us forget completely about why we broke up with that person. Your mind will literally throw in amnesia to make you go back to what it understands and what is familiar to it. It will throw in amnesia. This happened to me when I quit my job. And I used to work in tax, and I really didn't like it. And I was talking to my wife, and I was like, I had the best job in the world. Like, why did I? This was when I was going through a lot of challenges when I first transitioned to business. And she was like, I was like, why did I quit? It was such a secure job. And she was like, are you serious? You always complained about the job. And our mind just throws in amnesia because it wants that familiar thing. It doesn't want that unknown, right? So we want to challenge those beliefs. These are just assumptions. What is that limiting belief that you have? For each limiting belief, we're going to do this. Where is this not true? There's an area that this is not true. We want to break at its legs. I'm not capable. You're not capable. Well, are you not capable at anything? No, you've got capabilities. You're able to do X, Y, Z. Right? Ask, who are you and what are you without this belief? This belief isn't your identity. It's there to serve a purpose. It's an assumption, generalization. But there is something behind that. It's you without this belief. You don't have to hold on to that belief. You can change it. What emotions arise when you believe that belief? What is the emotion that you're feeling when you have that belief, when you think that belief is actually true? And how do you treat yourself and others when you believe the belief? When you believe the belief, right? It's not serving you. And this is just the point that whatever that emotion is and that feeling and that belief, it's not serving you or others. I want you to go back and I should put a caveat over here. If sometimes our limiting beliefs are caused by trauma and intense kind of memories. And this exercise is not for trauma related things, right? If you do have trauma and or more of an intense kind of feeling that you're not comfortable to go back to, then have a conversation with me. That's a different. We can use different tools for that. But this is for more of the other limiting beliefs, whatever you found that you're able to go back to, right? What is the earliest memory of forming this belief? Try to close your eyes, have that feeling, whatever feeling, that emotion generated, and go back to your earliest memory of when that belief was formed. Whatever your subconscious mind will throw. And ask yourself, what were the qualities or resources would have helped you make a new empowering belief in that old memory? By resources, I mean internal feelings with joy or confidence or certainty or whatever it is, these resources that we have access to. We all have access to all those resources. We can always go back to a memory where we had those resources. And I want you to bring those resources to that memory where that old belief was formed, to make a new belief. Because at that point, whatever age you were, you didn't have that knowledge and understanding of how the world works. And you made these generalizations and assumptions about how these things work. But here's the crazy thing. We do have this time machine in our brain that we can go back in time. We might not be able to change the event, but we can change the interpretation of that event. And that's powerful. And you have that power. And so go back to that memory as if it's happening right now, but with this new resourceful feeling, this new resourceful quality. And see the event and all these other similar events following it unfold differently with this new resource, with this new quality, this new attribute that you have access to. And then turn the belief around in a more positive way to create this kind of empowering affirmation, this different statement. I want a different statement, right? You want a different statement. But it has to be a statement that resonates with you and makes you feel excited about believing this belief. Here's the things with life affirmations. A lot of the times people will make a life affirmation that they might believe for a few seconds, but don't actually hold much longer. And when you make a statement to yourself that you can say whatever you want to say, but do you believe this statement is what matters. You have to make a statement that you resonate with, that you feel, that you believe. Because if you don't do that, what you will focus on when you say those statements is the gap that you have between this statement and where you are. And that's why life affirmations for the most part don't work, is because a lot of people focus on the gap that they have, because the statements they say they don't resonate with it. And so with this kind of bringing back that resource into that memory, this old memory, and changing that into a different statement, having those resources, having a different interpretation, you're able to say this new affirmation, this new statement, this new empowering belief. And you got to play with it until you find something that resonates with you, right? And when you do that, you're not just saying things to you. You're actually going back in time and kind of changing this interpretation. And for the most part, a lot of who we think we are is based on our past, how we interpret the past. And so when you change this interpretation, you're changing how you see yourself and how capable you are, the actions that you're going to take. And if we act based on how we feel, and we're changing how we feel, then it's much easier to take action, right? I hope this kind of gives you an idea of what you can do to take on the limiting beliefs that we have. There's some unconscious beliefs that we have, and that requires obviously a bit of a more deep dig, and we use kind of like hypnosis and meditation to get to the subconscious, to talk to it, really, to get those strong beliefs that we may have. And then when it comes to kind of the idea of self-esteem is about how good you feel about yourself. And the only way to feel good about ourselves is really to understand what our values are, and live in alignment to those values. When you do that, you have that high self-esteem. And when you have that high self-esteem, you are more confident in yourself. So if you have the value of whatever your values are, values is, if you have a value of success and you believe that you possess those qualities of success because you can access it and you have experiences and memories where you were successful in things, and you realize that a skill, whatever skill that we were working on, you can easily build that by taking action, in spite of fear, in spite of that voice that comes up that is there for your protection. But as we said, fear could be a good helper, but a terrible master. So I don't know if anyone has any questions. Sorry, Brittany, I didn't know. For some reason, I don't have the questions and things. I don't know if there were any.
It's been really good so far with Brittany, and I've been loving it.
Yeah, this is powerful information. Like, thank you so much for sharing that with us. If any of you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments. And if you're watching the replay, we'll come back to this. So ask some questions and we can answer them for you. This is gold, you guys. Like, seriously, I know so many people struggle with these limiting beliefs, myself included. And I've done so much work over the last couple of years in trying to, get rid of them and, understand, where I want to be and getting out of my comfort zone, facing that fear, doing all these things. Wow, this challenge, Ruth said, challenge accepted. So she's ready. She's ready for the challenge.
Ruth. So, yeah. And, again, I just want to help people move away from this idea of, to be confident, you need to be fearless. Like, that just doesn't exist. That's a wrong concept about what confidence is, about what fear is. Fear is going to show up when you're doing something new. And it's important there to show up sometimes. It's just you don't want to take it over, right? We've all been there where when you first did your driving test or when you first drove, there was fear there. You didn't feel comfortable, but you did it, right? And then now you don't even think about it. And you can apply this to anything, literally anything. It's just about, repeating and understanding, okay, what worked, what didn't work. And it's not an attack on my identity if there's a setback, because I understand what my values are, I understand what my mission is, right? And yeah, some people are gonna say X, Y, Z, but they're not in the arena. We're not interested in their comments. It's easy, very easy to be a spectator and criticize and say X, Y, Z. It's the easiest thing in the world.
Oh, absolutely. And people will, talk down and they'll try to shoot your dreams down. It's because they're empty. They're not doing those things. And they're, that's reflected on themselves, not on you. And people, you'll always have people around that will do that are just negative, that, oh, why are you trying to start a business? That's stupid. Just go get a job, like all of these things. And that's because they're not working on themselves and they have this, jealousy aspect, and, get rid of people like that in your life.
100% agree. And sometimes, a lot of the times, they're just scared of the change, scared of you changing, because that impacts them, because they don't know what that will mean to the relationship. They don't know what that means to their environment. They're seeing the growth that you're going and what you're going after, and they're just scared that, what does that mean to me? Right? But remember, this is what we're doing here isn't about us. It's about the people we're serving. It's about the impact that we can make to the world. And as you said at the beginning, Brittany, the world needs the impact. We're going through some times, and we all need to show up more authentically, show up fully as much as we can. And it doesn't have to be in this kind of grand scheme of things of building an empire, but just if you show up fully and authentically every day to the people around you, that has a domino effect, major one. And you get into this habit of showing up more authentically. And here's the thing, every time fear is going to show up, we have two choices. We either move forward and take action or step back. And whichever you're doing, if going to build a habit. It's going to build that muscle. The more you step forward, the easier it becomes. The more you step backwards, the easier it becomes to step backwards, right? And we all have access to, as I was mentioning, we all have access to these resources that we can use, like confidence. You have an experience where you were confident in something. Bring that experience back. If you go back to that memory right now, see it as if you're seeing it from your own eyes, hearing what you're hearing, feel that feeling of confidence. That's changing your state. You can change your state in any moment. That's different to kind of self-concept and identity. That's just kind of like dealing a bit with the symptom, but it also helps you to take better action because you're changing how you're feeling in that moment.
This has been excellent. Really good. We've been enjoying it.
Yeah, this is great information. I actually wrote a letter to fear last week.
Cool.
Thanked it for what it had given me, how it protected me, but that it is no longer needed in my life. And when I do need it, I will call it back. But it has no place in holding me back because that fear did hold me back in my business. And, and how selfish of me to let that happen because now I can't serve my clients, the people that I can help. I'm gonna let my own fear get in my way, and then I can't help these people heal their gut, improve their health. That's super selfish of me. And so having to switch that mindset was really important and powerful, and getting out of my own head and just realizing that, I can do this. Fear doesn't need to stop me.
Yeah, 100%. And sometimes we do have to have that conversation with it because it's kind of, part of us. It's, we have these things that are part of us. And sometimes there's a positive intention behind it, right? And one's safety. And so you can still kind of do the thing that you want to do and have that, safety around in some way. But you can't wait for certainty, 100% certainty, 100% safety. And that's what a lot of people are waiting for.
It's never going to happen.
Not going to happen.
These people are kind of stuck in that consumption phase, right? Just consume information, and not taking action.
Yep.
So yeah, as I said before, I'm going to drop the link below for kind of the worksheet I just kind of went through and a summary of all the things that I just described over here. So if you just press the link and we'll give you that PDF. And of course, if anyone has any challenges they want to talk through with me, please reach out. Happy to help.
Cool.
Absolutely. Where can people find you? We'll put all your contact information in the comments. What do you have going on? How can people connect with you?
So I'm mostly active on Facebook. And so that's where you can connect with me over there. I do have a Facebook group also focused on mindsets and kind of improvements. So people can join that. It's free, and I share trainings, quite a bit of trainings over there. So happy to have you guys. And
put that in the comments.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for just coming in here and just pouring value into our community. We really, really, really appreciate that. I got a lot of value out of that, and I think a lot of other people will too. You guys check this out, join his group. We'll put everything in the comments. I'll put the link for the, do you have the link? Can you put that in the chat, and then I'll put it in the comments if they want to download that?
Yeah, I'll just do that.
Just want to say one thing too. Brittany and I have kind of expressed this in different times. We've done a lot of talks about gut health and heart health, cardiovascular health, and skin health and sleep health, which are all great, but we're whole beings. We have emotions, we have a mindset, we have feelings, we have emotions. So that those gut health and everything can only do so good without a whole picture being put into effect. We might not be up to eating those healthy foods if we're down and our mindset is out. So there's a lot of aspects to put into perspective there, and it's really important that you're emphasizing this. So I really appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me. It's been great being here with you and being able to serve your community. And you're right, like, obviously our fuel is so important in terms of what we're putting in our body. but our mind is also a tool that we need to kind of understand and kind of know how to operate, because we're never given the manual, right? We're just kind of told go and figure it out. And we need to understand this manual. And if you don't understand it, it can lead you to believing certain things about yourself, which are just simply not true, and they limit what you're capable of and the impact that you can do to the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Brittany. Thank you so much, Chris. I hope you have a beautiful day.
Thank you.
We'll speak to you very soon.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming. You can come back anytime.
Yeah.
Have a great rest of your evening.
Thanks a lot. Bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.